I feel like the atmosphere is really electric. I mean, listen to it right now, and this is the last day of the show.
Well, it's a great chance for us to gather new business and see what's new in the industry. See you at the next IT Expo. We'll be here.
At Mitel, we are powering connections. We do it because the world is clamoring to be more connected. Marching to more mobility, we do it because the world wants to be more seamless and more secure, more collaborative, more in the cloud. And we will power it because every business's future depends on the power of connections. Every business's success is driven by it. We are powering connections for the networks of today and tomorrow, for the far-flung employees of companies worldwide, for the billions of devices that are always on and that need to always be connected. We are powering connections to modernize every organization we touch, to unleash the power of simple, seamless collaboration, to enable every customer to own their destiny and secure their future. We have one vision, one mission. We are one company. We are Mitel, and we are powering connections.
All right. Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here. I actually live in Miami, so this is like the shortest commute to a conference in my career. And I'm voting for Miami next year. It's even shorter. But great to have you all here in southern Florida. I live there on weekends because, like most of you, I'm traveling quite a bit around the world. I joined Mitel about 9 months ago. What I wanted to kind of share with you is a perspective of kind of disruption, right? We just talked about SD-WAN. A number of you are in very disruptive technologies. Disruption is such a way of life now, and it creates so many opportunities. And I believe that there's another wave coming around IoT that I don't think the market, our customers, quite understand just yet. And so I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about that. And it feels to me like in my career, I've spent 13 years at IBM, 8.5 at Cisco in the early parts of my career. I had a front row seat to a lot of disruptive technologies. In the IBM days, from minis to PCs, that's a PC XT for those of you that have been around as long as I have. That was one of the first hard drive PCs. That was a 10 and 20 meg hard drive. That was the first PC. And we thought 20 meg was a lot. My presentation doesn't fit on a 20 meg drive. So it's just amazing how fast things have changed. And what's fundamentally happening is that the pace of disruption is shrinking exponentially. I joined Cisco in 1994. The web wasn't around. We were a router company helping internet or networks, LANs, communicate within an enterprise. The only early instantiation of the internet was a government-funded network for higher education by DARPA. That was the beginning of the internet. But in 1994, the World Wide Web was not around. And I will tell you, in the early days when we were doubling our business every year, I joined when we were $1 billion and doubling every year, we didn't know. We really didn't know how the internet was going to fundamentally change business models for our customers. And anybody that tells you they did is lying to you, because we're all victims of our past. And there was nothing that we could understand and relate to that on how things were going to be so disruptive at so many levels. We were struggling at the time really understanding, can we continue to grow at 100% a year after having done it for 8 years before? No company had ever done that. And so I'm always struck by the challenge to look at what's going to happen in the future. We're so limited by our past experiences. And the companies and leaders that fundamentally can break through that and see through the cloud on where technology or how technology is going to disrupt are the ones that move fast. And in this business, it's all about speed. Speed wins 9 out of 10 times, 99 out of 100 times. It's not size. The saying I picked up from Chambers in the early days, it is the fast that beats the slow. It's not the big that beats the small. And that's the beauty of being in the businesses we're in. And so as I think about my experiences and where we are and all of the technology disruption, the one key thing that's very clear is that the disruptive cycles are really shrinking. right? The mainframe to mini to PC, those disruptions were measured in 8 to 10 years. The internet has just fundamentally changed how fast things disrupt. And hence the reason that really fundamentally speed is where we need to go. And what I tell our customers all the time is you've got to think about an architecture. And a scaffolding analogy here is really the architecture for the enterprise. How do we enable a customer with today's purchases, today's architecture, to be able to be flexible enough to be able to take the disruptive technologies and applications that enable new business models tomorrow? That's the fundamental challenge that we have in talking to our large customers. How do you get them to spend today knowing that we're going to take them through this maze of disruption where their competitors in their industry, the first that are able to embrace this technology and drive new enterprise business models, because that's the business we're in, right? We enable new business models for customers to be able to drive cost out, drive efficiencies, drive competitive advantage. I mean, that's the business we're in. And so how do we get customers to understand the criteria today that's going to enable them to embrace? That's the fundamental thing Cisco did in the early days. Even when we didn't know where the internet was. It was all about networking spend that was going to enable them to navigate through the web as the industry drove new business models in their respective industries. And that's the challenge we're in our business. From a UC standpoint, unified communication, where are we now? It's changed at a rather slow pace, but it's now starting to fundamentally change at a much faster pace. Unified communication is a slow moving because in essence, its bedrock on collaboration is voice, and enterprise customers don't like to change their voice infrastructures much. Life of a PBX is about 9.5, 10 years. 450,000 lines in the world, about 45 million change, get upgraded, get changed per year around the world. It's a slow moving because I kind of consider voice when I talk to enterprise customers, it's really the career limiting app. Nobody gets promoted or gets a bonus based upon better dial tone or voicemail or voice conferencing. But when they change it and it doesn't work, their life is a little bit difficult. And so they really change it at a very slow pace. But it's starting to fundamentally change because of the business models that it's enabling. Where we are now in this space is everything is now very much virtualized, very much software-based from the old PBX vertical solution sets that we've come from in the past. But it's now moving very much to mobile and very much to app-centric cloud delivery mechanisms for new collaboration and new voice-enabled applications. And IoT is the next wave. And you might be sitting here thinking, IoT, what does IoT have to do with voice collaboration? And I'm going to talk about that. So as you look at where we've come, it's been very much an intra and intercompany based collaboration, but IoT is that third wave. And IoT, the Internet of Things, it's a buzzword that's been around a while, but it's starting to fundamentally pick up speed, is in the collaboration space. While the vast majority of IoT is going to drive lots of data into big databases. And those companies that can navigate and analyze that data to find trends in the market with their customers, to align their business model is an awful lot of what IoT is. But there's another key component of IoT that drives a need for a real-time communication and an action. There are event-driven alerts in an IoT world that need to then get routed to somebody in the enterprise to be able to react. And it's that aspect, the real-time response and action of IoT, that is fundamentally changing the UC architectures for enterprises. And those customers that understand how IoT is going to change their value prop, their ability to compete and add value to their customers, to be able to react to those events faster, are the ones that are going to compete much more effectively and win. And so when you think about IoT, what it does is it takes what historically in the UC space, right? Unified communication's been a white-collar application, if you will. It's been in the office. It hasn't really extended historically to the information worker, those in uniforms, or the blue-collar components of an enterprise. It's primarily been an office-based architecture and technology. Yes, the information workers and service workers all have mobile devices, but have they really been embraced and extended out from the enterprise from a collaboration standpoint? Not really. Not really. The UC space has been pretty much an information worker or knowledge worker in the enterprise. But with IoT, the requirement now is to be able to drive those or get those alerts, navigate them through your workflows out to the information worker and the service worker. That's what's fundamentally changing, is those companies that can embrace the extended workforce. And in a lot of cases, the information worker and the service worker may be a partner, may be a contractor. So extending out from the enterprise. But even those enterprises with big service workers have not been able to necessarily enable them with the collaboration type technology with the knowledge worker back in the office in a real-time way. And so IoT is extending collaboration way outside of the four walls of the office. And those customers that understand that are now starting to embrace the cloud, because the way to reach them clearly is around mobile, and delivery of those applications through cloud-based application delivery mechanisms is really critical to enable them to do that. So the cloud and IoT are two very disruptive components in the UC industry. And that's where we are fundamentally shifting our focus. Everything is moving to the cloud. In our world, PBXs are going to be around for a long time. Landlines are going to be around for a long time, certainly in my lifetime. But more and more of the delivery mechanisms to the applications to those PBXs will be via the cloud. And more customers are now, as they upgrade or change out in that 9.5-year cycle, more and more are now moving to the cloud. It's still a very big premise-based business, but it is shifting at an exponential level. So how do we see it happening? The US market is the fastest growing UCaaS market, Unified Communication as a Service Cloud. It is starting to take place in Europe as well as Australia. But in the US, it's hit the inflection point. The way it has started is fundamentally in the small businesses. Over 90% of the UCaaS seats are under 100-seat companies. Over 90%, that's a market statement. Primarily because a lot of those small businesses don't have IT staffs, don't want to focus their OpEx and people on IT. They'd much rather have a per seat, per month kind of billing capability and rely on vendors to provide a quality service. A lot of times those small businesses, not very sophisticated from a collaboration standpoint. It's basic voice, some voice collaboration, voicemail, voice conferencing. As you move up into the mid-market, we're seeing the change now start to fundamentally happen in the US. It's moving up market. The mid-market typically is adopting it first from an application standpoint, what's often referred to as a functional hybrid. Let's keep the PBX, but let's start to bring in applications that can leverage call control and the PBX infrastructure with new applications, what the market or what the industry refers to as a functional hybrid. Let's keep the call control, the reliability I'm used to, not have my phone ring as a CIO or IT exec. I don't want to change it, but I can now start to bring in applications into that call control platform. So that's starting, and it's typically driven by two apps, collaboration, team collaboration, much more than individual, but really team ongoing collaboration, and contact center. Contact center cloud business is a very fast-growing market, and the innovation around new applications enables them to leverage new apps much more effectively than into their premise. Large enterprises, starting. We're starting to see some big customers. Typically, it's coming in at the edge of the network. Do my branch offices, I do an acquisition. I don't want to do a rip and replace. The biggest way for me to incorporate that company into my enterprise is with a physical hybrid. Let's bring them in on a cloud. Let's keep my infrastructure. And I now have a physical hybrid that I can then also start to bring in new applications as a functional hybrid implementation. So we are seeing in the US this market move upstream. In Europe, it's really starting to happen at the small side, not so much in the large enterprise as much as the US, but it's coming. And so you see in Europe, you see a much more telco-based UCaaS market than in the US, where you see much more sophisticated UCaaS based companies starting to deliver a much more robust set of applications than just voice collaboration. So we see this evolve pretty much very consistently. In the US, Europe's a little bit behind, 24 months behind. Asia, with the exception of Australia, even 24 months further behind that. So as we look at this market, it's really all about first cloud, because fast beat the slow. Why do people move to the cloud in UCaaS? Pretty much flexibility. Flexibility is a big one. I talked about the functional hybrid, being able to leverage new applications into my call control platform, much quicker adoption of innovation, and an extension of the enterprise to get to the knowledge and blue-collar workers, whether they're contractors or my own team. Good example. One of our customers is Michael Johnson. You might remember Michael Johnson a few years back, gold medalist, track and field. He has, since in his next career, he's now got a training company where he trains world-class athletes in all sports. If you think about that business, it's a very mobile business. He's got trainers in Europe, Asia, all around the US. He's got clients that exist all around the US. He's got some big training facilities in Dallas and California. But he's really a virtual and a very mobile workforce. And what he needed from an old Nortel system, he needed to be able to extend the enterprise and drive a level of collaboration with his customers and a team of trainers on an ongoing basis. So this concept of ongoing team collaboration was a key driver for him to leverage technology into a different business model. Let's run a quick video.
I'm Michael Johnson, founder and president of Michael Johnson Performance. Prior to starting Michael Johnson Performance 10 years ago, I was an athlete, and I'm a 4-time Olympic gold medalist and a 9-time world champion. So at MJP, we train individual athletes and teams of all sports. So our focus is on developing the athleticism that any athlete might need to excel in their particular sport. Dallas Stars are one of our clients. We work with a lot of the Dallas Cowboys. But as a global organization, we work with Olympic federations from all around the globe. We certainly have our challenges as it relates to being a global organization and having to try to stay connected with coaches and have coaches connected back to the headquarters, regardless of where they may be. Everyone has a role to play, but working together is how we achieve the results that our athletes and teams are looking for.
Our company prides itself on the science behind the training, the technology behind performance. We needed a system that would support our beliefs. As we began looking for a partner to support our business needs, we didn't really know what was out there. When we actually began to research the capabilities that Mitel could provide us, we were blown away.
Our clients rely on us for high-performance solutions for them. They're high-performing athletes, and that's what we look for in the tools that we use and our coaches use in order to maintain contact and communication with our clients and with our coaches out in the field.
The things that Mitel could provide us, along with the endless support that we have received from the company's end to teaching our employees at MJP, has just far surpassed our wildest imagination. The video collaborations that we're able to use and connect on a personal level with our athletes, our clients, our coaches is something of value for our company, for our employees. We use the Mitel system to integrate with our Salesforce.com app so that our sales team can have the information when they're making calls, reaching out to parents, all that information right at their fingertips.
Working with Mitel has been fantastic for us. Having a platform that we understand and that we can rely on and that we know is going to be consistent has been a real benefit for us and also a real benefit for our coaches as they're based in another location. Knowing that they have a consistent platform that's going to work for them and that they can depend on has been fantastic.
I like this case study because what we're finding is that the next phase of collaboration is really much more about what I referred to before as team collaboration. But when I mean team, because unified collaboration, if you think, well, it's always about teams, it's multiple people. But what we're finding is that a lot of companies have project-related teams. And this is a good example where you have multiple trainers, maybe multiple customers as part of the same training group that want to have a persistent conversation as they're going through a multi-month training, to be able to share documents, share training material, share results from their training, statistics, et cetera. But to be able to have a persistent discussion is what the industry is really talking about when we refer to the next phase of team collaboration. So how do you now drive a persistent team collaboration outside of the enterprise to your customers, to your contractors, to your partners around a project, and then be able to interchange between voice, video, and sharing of content and editing of content. Team collaboration is the next big innovation and next big productivity boost around unified collaboration. That's why I like that example. We're finding a lot more of customers looking for those types of requirements. The other example is San Diego Padres. So a few years ago, San Diego Padres had the All-Star game. They had a PBX infrastructure, but they were then faced with this challenge of how do they needed to increase capacity exponentially. And their infrastructure was not able to do that. As you can imagine, Major League Baseball comes in, all of the media comes in, and you have to provide an awful lot of collaboration and phone service to an expanded set. And rather than ripping out or rather than installing more premise-based, they moved to the cloud. It's an example of quickly being able to scale up. We did the same thing with the Super Bowl in Minnesota. So these events have opportunities where quick scale up and then scale back down. So the cloud as well has that inherent understanding and capability for customers to be able to flex up and flex down. And so San Diego Padres is a big customer of ours as well that is a good example. So at Mitel, some of you are much more familiar with us than others. We are the number 4 UC company in the world, number 3 in the US, number 1 in Europe. From a UCaaS standpoint, number 2, neck and neck right now on a growth trajectory with RingCentral. So we are one of those few companies that's moved from the old world, equipment premise-based, which we still do an awful lot of business on the premise because it's still going to fundamentally be a key requirement for a lot of customers. We install about 1 million lines a quarter on site. But on the cloud, we've now fundamentally shifted, and we're pretty excited that we're going to be one of the few companies in an old world model that's made the shift to the new world. So as the number 2 UCaaS company in the world, that is a very fast-growing business for us. And the unique capability for us is to deliver that functional hybrid and take customers to a physical hybrid, or if you want to go rip and replace, we can certainly go full cloud. So we're excited about the market developments. What we tell our customers and US partners is the buying criteria for UC is fundamentally changing. So how do you build that scaffolding, the architecture, to get ready for IoT and the new business models? It's much more than about presence and voicemail and video conferencing. It's how do I now drive a team collaboration capability and the ability to drive IoT alerts into call flows, workflows, to enable over mobile infrastructures, that team collaboration and the real-time response to the alerts that come in from IoT. And so it's much more complex than what it historically has been. And so we tell our customers and partners it's that type of architectural selling that now needs to take place to be able to position customers to be able to drive new business models into their business. So, insight from our customers, no need to rip and replace. We'll sell you on-site, we'll sell you cloud, we'll sell you functional, physical, doesn't matter to us. Where are you in your evolution? And the good news for our customers is we'll take you through that path of functional hybrid. We'll take you through that path of moving to the cloud at the pace that makes sense to you. Most of our cloud competitors, it's one option, rip and replace. Most enterprise customers don't want to do that. They want an evolutionary path. And the cloud is going to be the key vehicle from an application standpoint, no doubt about that. Because all of the innovation is on apps that are delivered through the cloud into that call control on site. And so we tell our customers, think about the architecture. If you're one of those customers or serving one of those customers that's in that 45 million seats that's going to get turned over every year, how do you put the architecture in place that's going to enable you to bring in those applications, move to the cloud as it makes sense for your business. And it's all about team collaboration and mobile devices. If the architecture doesn't enable that, then it's a dead-end investment. So I appreciate the time. Look forward to seeing you out in the show, and have a great couple days here down in sunny southern Florida. Thanks.